Okay, hi everyone, and what I'm doing here is I'm creating a little tutorial to walk us through the labs this week with Ubuntu. I thought it would be useful since we're not having class Thursday, and since a lot of you weren't in class Tuesday when we went over how to do this, I thought that I would go ahead and make a little video, put it online so that you can watch it, go through it, and help you get through the labs. Okay, so what we have here, I'm in my VMware, you can see that, and I have already installed Ubuntu in my VMware. Now you want to follow the instructions in your book for installing Ubuntu in the VMware, and when you install it, you get a GUI interface, this is our Ubuntu desktop. It's a GUI interface. It's very kind of similar to Windows and Mac OS. These are our applications over here, are our control buttons. We have the dashboard. We have our home folder, which would have our documents and so forth in it. Ubuntu comes with Firefox installed, so we have a Firefox web browser. Ubuntu also comes with something called LibreOffice, which is a free office software that comes in with Ubuntu. It's open source, and it's similar to Office, but it's free, and it comes with Ubuntu. You can also, if you do not have Office at home, you can look for LibreOffice. It is an open source office, and you see it has a word processing, spreadsheet, and presentation, so like Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Then we have Ubuntu Software Center, Ubuntu One, which is kind of like support kind of thing. Amazon, Ubuntu One Music, System Settings, Software Updater, Workspace Switcher, Floppy Disk, and our trash. Okay. So we actually are not going to be working with the GUI interface for Linux very much. We're actually going to be working with the command line interface, which is very similar to DOS. Not exact. You'll notice that some of the commands are different, and Linux is very, very particular with syntax. Things have to be in lowercase or uppercase. Okay, you can't inter switch those. They're two completely different things with Linux. It's very particular with spacing, all of that. So when you're typing in the commands, make sure you're referring back to the book or referring back to the resources on Angel to make sure that you have the commands in there in exactly the way that Linux wants them to be. Okay. So before you do your labs, what you have to do is you have to figure out how do you get to the terminal. And how you get to the terminal, the easiest way I've found is if you go to the dashboard and you click the dashboard, you will get a search box. Okay. Now you'll notice that mine already says terminal in there, and I already have a terminal here under recent applications. That's because I've been going in there and fooling around with the terminal a lot, so it's already in there. Yours probably will not have it. So what you do is in the search box, just like in Windows, when you type CMD to get the command prompt, you just type in terminal, hit enter, and voila, it brings the terminal up. Okay. So this is our terminal, and the reason it's important to learn how to do command line interface with Linux, Linux is an extremely popular operating system for businesses because it's free, or relatively free, it's stable, it's secure, and it doesn't take a lot of resources on your computer like Windows does. So, but unlike Windows, Linux, the GUI is just pretty much a decoration. Okay, Linux is very much driven by the command line and the command prompt. So if you really want to work with Linux, do things with Linux, you have to understand how the command line works. And it makes you extremely better employable, because Linux is out there in the enterprise world. And if you're looking at things like servers, Cisco routers use a Linux operating system in them, but they don't have GUI interfaces. Okay, all they have when you go into a router to program it, the only thing you're going to see is a command line interface. You're not going to see a GUI. So it's very important that if you want to go those routes in IT, support, networking, things like that, you have to know the command line interface. Okay, so this is our terminal. It starts with, it'll tell you like my username, so it'll have your username, and then what the computer name is. So for here, it's pretty simple. It's Therese at Ubuntu. And the little sign here, the $sign, what that signifies is that I am a average user. Okay, unlike the super user or the root user, which is like the administrator in Windows. Ubuntu, much like Windows 7 and Windows 8, Ubuntu disables the root user by default, and you have to actually enable them through the command line if you want to get into that super user and mess around with system settings. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that later on. But right now, we're going to focus on creating a file on your desktop and creating a folder on your desktop and creating a file within that folder. So here I am, and let's just look. I'm going to type in the dir command to see what directories I have. Okay, and it shows you that the directories that I have, that Therese has, this user, I have desktops, downloads, music, public, documents, all that fun stuff. Okay, well, I want to put my folder on the desktop. So the first thing I need to do, and you might remember this from doing our Windows command line, the first thing I want to do if I want to put a folder on the desktop is I want to go to the directory, to the desktop directory. So what I'm typing in here is cd, which is change directory, space, and then the name of the directory that I want to go to. Okay. Now, if you were in class Tuesday, you realize that if I typed a small d here instead of the capital D, I would get an error telling me there is no desktop directory. Okay. Because it is capitalized here, I have to capitalize it here, or my computer, Ubuntu, is not going to recognize it. So I put cd space desktop with the capital D. Okay. Now notice that it's showing that I am in the desktop directory. Okay. Now I want to make a directory, and the command for that in Linux is mkdir. Okay. This is a little bit different from the command when we did DOS. I believe when we did DOS we did md. md will not work. Okay, you have to put mkdir for make directory, space, and then you want to type the name of the directory that you want it to make. And in this case, we want it to make a directory named school. Hit enter. Okay. Now what I've done, and you can see if I move the command line interface there, or the terminal there, you can see that I now have a folder called school on the desktop. Okay. Now, the instructions for my lab tell me that I have to create another directory inside of school called class. So I find it's easier to just go into that directory and create it. So what I'm doing now, I change directory again, and I change directory to school, and now if you look down here, now I am in the school directory on the desktop. Okay. Now I'm going to make directory again, and this time I'm going to call the directory class. Okay. And again, if I were to look in here inside of school, it's going to open for me. There we go. When I open the school directory, notice there is a class directory in there. Okay. So I've created a folder named School on the desktop, and in that folder School is a folder called Class. And you can see here the path, just like you do in Windows, from Home to Desktop to School to Class. But of course we're not done, so I need to change directory again and go to Class. Now I'm inside that Class folder. Okay. Now we have to create a text file called Homework. Okay. To create a text file in Linux, I have to use a command to call up a text editor. In this case, we're going to call up Pico. Okay. Pico is the text editor that comes in this version of Ubuntu. Okay, so we're going to type in Pico, P-I-C-O, and then a space, and then the name of the file that I want to create. And in this case, the file that I want to create is going to be called Homework. Okay, so I type in the command. Again, I'm in the desktop. I'm in the desktop, in School, in Class, and I'm creating a Pico file named Homework. Hit enter, and now what's happened is it pulls up my text editor. Okay, this is my Pico text editor, and it's telling me the file name is Homework, and right now it's blank, nothing's in it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to type my name, and I'm just going to put this is my homework file. Okay, so I've typed that. Now I want to save it. Okay, and to save it, I want to write it out. Okay, which is down here. If you come down here and you look for save, you're not going to find it. Okay, but these are your commands. The little I can't think of the word. The little symbol in front of the O. That is for the control key. So all of these commands, you press control plus that key. Okay. Control G is for help. Control X is exit. Control J will justify it. So if I wanted to justify, I do that, and it, evenly spaces it. And now I can unjustify. Woohoo! So if I hit Control U, okay, it puts it back the way it was. Okay. But what I want to do is I want to write it out or save it. So I hit Control O. Okay. And it says down here it will ask me file name to write. I want it to write my homework file. Okay, so I hit enter. And it tells me that it wrote 2 lines, which if you look up here, 1, 2, I have 2 lines. It wrote 2 lines. Awesome. Okay. Now I can exit, and to exit I hit Control X. Make sure you're in your VMware when you do that. And now if I minimize this, come here to School, into Class, there's my homework file, and if I open that up, there it is. It says my name, and this is my homework file. Ta-da! It's done. Okay. As simple as that. Okay. Dum dum. And then pull back up my terminal. There we go. Accidentally opened 2 terminals there. Okay. Alright, so that shows you how to create. And then if I hit exit, it exits the terminal. So that shows you how to create the directories. Okay. Quit folder. Let's open back up a terminal. Okay. And now I'm going to show you how to get to the super user account. To get into the super user account, or to enable the super user account, you're going to type in sudo, sudo, and then a dash and a lowercase I. Okay. You do that, hit enter. Okay, now it's going to, now for me, it asks me for a password because I already set up the super user account with a password. For you, it's not going to ask you a password unless you've set it up. I have an article on Angel which walks you through enabling the super user account and setting up a password for it. So please look at that article and go ahead and set up your super user account and create the password for it. Okay. So I type in my password. Okay. Now you notice that I have changed from Therese at Ubuntu to root at Ubuntu, and my $sign has changed to a £sign. Okay. Now for this week, you don't have to do anything with the super user account. Okay. However, for next week, when we start messing with users, creating users, changing user privileges and mods, you're going to have your super user account enabled. Okay. So you want to go ahead and enable the super user account and make a password for it. Alright. It's not that complicated to do that. Follow the article, and remember to get to the super user at sudo sudo space dash I. Okay. And that's it for our little tutorial today. And I will see you all on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. And make sure you watch some of those videos and go in and play around with Linux a little bit. Get comfortable with the command line. And I will talk to you again Tuesday. All right. Have a great day.